Hi, this is Pete Jones from Tiger Moth Tales, and you're watching Afterglow Prog Rock TV.
Right. How many bands are you actually in, Peter? Because when I was checking you out, I mean, I know Tiger Moth Tales and Red Bazaar, but Cyan as well, is there? I mean...
Yeah, I mean, there's Tiger Moth Tales and Red Bazaar, Cyan, which is with Rob Reed, that's his venture. Camel, who I am in when we're touring, which sadly we had to cancel that last year.
Yeah.
But hopefully at some point it'll be resurrected. Did I say the Bardic Depths?
No.
The Bardic Depths, which is a more recent one that I'm in, and again that's kind of, you know, I sing. That's not, but I sing and play sax, but the writing is done by other people in the band, and which is nice to have a break from that. And I was in the It Bites, Francis Dunnery It Bites band for 4 mini tours, but I stepped down from that last year. So how many was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I've lost count.
5, I suppose. And I suppose I should mention, just from terms of promotion, that I'm also now working with the ex-bassist from Red Bazaar, who has very rudely decided to go and live in a different country, so he can't really be in the band anymore. And we've just put a couple of songs out under the moniker of Crimson Fate, as in F-E-T-E. So yeah, I suppose that's technically another band, or that's more of a duo, and we're just putting stuff out as and when we both get the time or the inclination. So yeah, all right. Let's have a good round 6 then. A good round half dozen. Yeah.
And I mean, do you prefer doing solo? Do you prefer, you know, flying solo, or do you prefer having the comfort of a band around you?
Well, doing the solo stuff, I mean, it's great because that is my vision, I suppose. But at the same time, then it's all down to me. You know, the writing, the you know, all the instruments, because I tend to be a bit of a loner in the studio. So that, you know, ultimately, if I don't write something, then nothing happens. You know, whereas with sort of Red Bazaar and Bardic Depths and obviously the Cyan stuff, it's, you know, it's kind of all written. It's the writing is, well, with Bardic Depths and Cyan, the writing is done for me, and with Red Bazaar it's a team effort, so that there is that kind of kickstart that gets things moving and stuff. So and I love, you know, ever since I was at school, I was in sort of many bands, as many things as I could be in. So I do love working with other people, and it's a varied mix of stuff. I mean, the funny thing about Tiger Moth Tales and Red Bazaar is that on stage we are the same band, we have the same personnel, and you know, we used to do double headers. We haven't done one for a while, but where we'd have Tiger Moth Tales and Red Bazaar, and we would literally just walk off stage and sort of walk back on again. But the material is totally different because of their influences. So I suppose in terms of my to try and attempt to answer the question, as I've just talked a load of nonsense for 10 minutes, but Tiger Moth Tales is my sort of, like I say, my vision, and that's very undiluted, you know. So, and of course, that's kind of how it all started. You know, it started with me doing Cocoon, and everything else came from there. So I've always got a soft spot, and I suppose a priority to Tiger Moth Tales.
We've been here a long time, for the timeline, since the old king came to town. History will show the overlords come and go, but you can't keep a good spirit down. 2, 3. one has plenty to say. In these troubled times, so much is unknown, but I still smile with pride at the place that I come upon. Yes, we've seen myths and we've seen legends, recessions and depressions. We've seen happiness and hardship side by side. Till those better days arrive, this is just another reason to survive. We're still alive. Streetlights, street signs, the fields and the skyline, each place I know so well. The men and the women, the places they've lived in, they all have a story to tell. Passing by the butchers, people waiting in the sun, I think of better days and better still to come. Yes, we've seen all the myths and legends, recessions and depressions. We've seen happiness and heartache side by side. Till those better days arrive, this is just another reason to survive. To those who didn't make it, even though you're gone, you're still here in our memory. Your spirit still lives on.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what do you prefer? I mean, there's the harmony and the whimsy and the melodic Tiger Moth Tales, then you got the all-out rocking Red Bazaar. I mean, you know, where you let your hair down, if so to speak. I mean, what do you prefer?
I don't know, because I've always liked different styles of music, and with Red Bazaar, the first album that we did together, it sounded, vocally anyway, closer to the Tiger Moth Tales stuff, because that's kind of what I've been used to doing. But over the years, we've kind of gone back to the more Red Bazaar roots, I suppose, because they were doing stuff before I joined. And we've gone back to the heavier stuff, and we've actually tried to go heavier and heavier with this latest album that we've just finished recording, by the way.
Oh, right.
It's mixed now, and I don't quite know what the dates for release and stuff are yet, but it's in the works, and we've really tried to go sort of heavier on some of the tracks, and I've got into all this screaming and sort of growly vocals and stuff, which I just never did before. Not because I didn't want to. I mean, I've always liked that kind of stuff, but I think that one of the advantages of working in bands with other people is in a way it's kind of more freeing, because I mean, take some of the Cyan stuff that I did with Rob, you know, I did some things on that last album vocally that if I'd done them myself, I might have gone, nah, you're just being a bit silly there, you know, a bit over the top. And then I send them to Rob, and he go, no, I love it. I'm going to keep that. That's brilliant. So it's actually kind of made me a bit more experimental and a bit more adventurous. So it's, as I say, it's great being with with several bands. It's the only downside is keeping up with them all. And I say to people, you know, people say, so what are you doing now then? Is it Red Bazaar? Is it Tiger Moth? What on earth are you? And I said, well, if you think you're confused, you know, I am as well. So, and just finding the time for it all. But thank God, we're not heavy. None of us are sort of heavy touring bands. So I don't have that schedule to try and keep to. I think people like Craig Blundell, for instance. You know, I mean, how does he keep all that in his head, and how does he maintain the stamina? But then again, I suppose the more you do, the better you get. But yeah, you know, it's great to have that variety. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, have you got a title for the new Red Bazaar album? Are you kicking one around yet?
I've got one. I don't know whether I'm allowed to
right.
reveal
It's a bit hush hush at the moment, is it?
We haven't really discussed whether we're supposed to tell people about that yet. So, but yes, there is a title, and it's quite. I'll just say parts of it are quite apocalyptic, which again, sort of there's so many Red Bazaar songs about either tragedy or death of some description, and we've kept that up on this album, and sometimes to a world-ending degree. So if you like that kind of thing, then you won't be disappointed.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I did a little, not this time, but last time I was at the Amber Sessions, we happened to get talking about yourself. I done a little mini sort of survey, you know, on what people preferred, your bands you preferred you in, like, you know. And not surprising, I think maybe due to the demographic of the people who are a bit older, they voted Tiger Moth Tales as the most favourite of your bands.
Oh, well, that's
and then
nice.
Red Bazaar, and then a few guys piped in Cyan, like, you know, so...
Well, I think with Cyan, you know, because I suppose the newer they are. I mean, I know Cyan's been around since the early 90s, but in this incarnation, you know, and I still meet people who say, I didn't know anything about Cyan, and it's there's so much stuff coming out in general that to try and keep everybody in the loop with what's going on, you know, you're kind of shouting into the void of noise with everybody else. You know, look at me, look at this thing, look at this. You know what I mean? And there's so much to try and to tell people about, and it's very exciting. But of course, we are, you know, we're all in this niche market. But it's, you know, it's wonderful that people still like Tiger Moth Tales. I mean, I've just recently reissued Cocoon, as you probably would have known.
Yeah.
And to think that 10 years after the original release, that people are still remember it, and a lot of people seem to think it's my best album, which does rather beg the question of why I bothered doing the other ones. But you know, I take that as a massive compliment that people still remember those songs, because there is so much stuff, and it's very easy. You know, you put your new record out, and then you know you have a week of sort of a buzz where people go, oh yeah, got the new record, it's great, and then next week, you know, I don't know, Stephen Wilson or Marillion puts something out, and then suddenly you've just gone, you know, Tiger what?
Yeah.
But you know, so it's amazing that Cocoon has sort of endured like that, and you know, I'm very, very happy and very, very grateful for that.
Yeah. So don't take this the wrong way, but what else in the Tiger Moth Tales, especially some of the songs, that very much reminds me of the Genesis era, around about Selling England by the Pound, almost as if it could be an outtake from that album. I mean that, you know, to sound, you know, I don't not you know.
You wouldn't be the first.
So you don't take that as an insult, though, that people would say that to you.
Absolutely not. I mean, yeah, I remember when Cocoon first came out, and I saw a review on Amazon. I should never read reviews on Amazon. It was the start of it was something like, "Oh, here we go again, another Genesis derivative," and I thought, cheers, I'll take it. But you know, there is a lot of that goes into it.
I mean, I'm not saying it's derivative, but I'm saying it sounds like it could come from.
But the thing is, in most prog bands, will unavoidably sort of get, you know, either yes Genesis, Pink Floyd, or
yes,
Kick,
that's
or
true. Yeah.
Kick and Crimson. You know, there's like seems to be like those four bands that everybody either sounds like or is compared to, and I, you know, I love Genesis. Well, I've loved them since I was about 10, so about 30 something years now, and then I think part of the reason why so many people make this kind of music is because we wish it was still being made. You know, we'd love to hear another Genesis album from the 70s or whatever that somehow got lost to the world and was rediscovered, And I guess there's an element of that, which some people would say, well, it's not very progressive, is it? You know, but I think, you know, there's a huge part of what we call prog that is nostalgia. But so yeah, I have no problem with that comparison, and I think, you know, especially songs like Hygge and Visit to Chigwick and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was going to say that, Visit to Chigwick.
People
Yeah.
will make that comparison in that, you know.
Stop the tape, put it back in the box, and back on the shelf where it's always belonged. It's showing its age now, just like us all, like the pictures gathering dust on the wall. All those years ago, but it's still with me today, like it will be tomorrow. On that I can depend, like a place to call home or a real good friend. I can return to Chigwick in my mind. It's all there waiting for me when I need to unwind. And I'm grateful more than words could ever show for the day I found you all those years ago. As we travel from the borderline to the borderline, from Morecambe to Oundle and the hills of Lorelei, from JK's to Kawasaki to the Albert Hall, who knew this windmill wandering could have started it all? Much has changed since then, so it seems. So much has happened, more than I could have dreamed. I've been around the world, all thanks to a song, and the folks out there as the journey goes along. I can hear you sing the whistle of a train and the fire bell ring. And how could I go before I sing the song that we've all come to know? So let's return to Chigwick once again, 'cause without it I never would have found you, dear friends. And I'm thankful now for all that you have done, what you gave me then, and all the years to come. All those years ago, and all the years to come.
Are yours also a big fan of the Trumpton and Jiggly and all that? Is that just...
Well, yes. I mean, I first had a copy of A Visit to Trumpton, which is the vinyl that came out to accompany the TV series. I had a copy. Oh no, it wasn't that. It was the Camberwick Green record. That's right. What's it called? Welcome to Camberwick Green, I think it's called. And I think I had a copy of that on a cassette that a friend of mine made for me, and I knew who Brian Cant was from Play School. So although, I mean, that was 1967 to 69, I think all of that was
about
on
that
on
time,
TV.
yeah.
So, you know, well past, you know, I was well, after that I was born in 1980, but I got into it in the sort of 80s, and I did see it being shown, the repeats shown on the TV, and later I went on to buy all the DVDs, and, you know, I found it incredibly relaxing and reassuring and sort of comforting, you know, and I still put it on every now and again and just think, oh, isn't that lovely, you know. And
It seems to invoke a sort of lost Britain, doesn't it, sort of thing, you know?
Yes.
I mean, that's probably what it is. I mean,
Yeah, and you know, that was the initial inspiration for the first track that I wrote, which is Visit to Chigwick, of course, and then the rest of the album started to come after that. But I mean, going back to Genesis, I mean, I was just listening to Frost Million Town the other day, because I listened to the new Frost album, and then I thought, oh, let's have Million Town. I haven't heard that for a long time, and it's amazing how many bits of that I listen to, and I think, kind of definitely inspired bits of Cocoon, that album. So I was listening to sort of more modern prog and you know, Big Train, Frost. I've mentioned these names so many times. Haken, Kuiper, loads of modern prog that I recently discovered at the time. So that's 2013, 2012, but you know, you could probably look at any of them. You know, particularly Big Train, for instance. People will say, "Oh yeah, they're just like Genesis." So you know, you can't escape. And in a way, I think nor should we. You know, we write what we want to write. So if that's how it comes out, then I'm not gonna be. I mean, I have done tracks that are very strange and very out there, and that's great if you're inspired to do that. But I'm not going to purposely try and write something that's like avant-garde and like played on an orchestra of Radiators or something. Something random just to say it's not like, just to say it's different, you know. I think, you know, at the end of the day, we're about writing songs, you know, and sometimes, you know, I think the thing about songs is people want to have songs that they can remember, you know. It's got to be memorable, and obviously we're learning from the best. So
you would say that Genesis is probably one of your big influences. Is there any big influences that you have?
Oh, Genesis, oh, definitely. I mean, I was an 80s kid, so the music I was aware of as a young kid was anything from all the Stock Aitken and Waterman stuff to, I mean...
Did you not get into any of the neo-prog that was around in the early 80s?
Well, I had no idea. I had no idea what prog was. I didn't get into Genesis until about 1990.
Right.
And then after that, there was things like War of the Worlds that I got into, and a bit later, Yes. And I suppose my earliest sort of proggy listening would have been things like Queen, who had their moments, and obviously a track like Bohemian Rhapsody, I think you could call that prog if you were that way inclined. So it was whatever was on in the car, really. And Queen 1 was always on quite a lot. And when I was growing up, I remember the Frog song coming out, and as a 4-year-old or whatever, I liked that. But from that, I got into Paul McCartney, so I was a massive Paul McCartney fan, still am.
Did you ever hear any IQ or Solstice or anything
Later,
like that?
sort of later with the Beatles and stuff, and their massive influences. Well, no, like I say, I didn't know any modern prog, or basically, I mean, Marillion. I remember I heard some Marillion tracks, although at the time I didn't know that that's who they were. We had an album called Hit 6 in the car, probably about 86, 87.
Right.
That had Incommunicado. That had that on it, and I didn't know who it was. I just knew it was a song called Incommunicado or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. I didn't know what that meant. So no, I didn't hear anything other than Genesis and sort of the proggier sides of the Beatles and Queen and stuff like that until much later on. The only proggy albums other than that I heard were, I got into Steve Hackett's solo stuff when I was probably about 14, 15, and that was amazing.
Yeah.
But a lot of my influences, and they come from all over the place, because I've always listened to sort of a variety of styles. So on a Tiger Moth Tales album, you know, you quite often get something that's silly, and you know, that can come from sort of any of the old. I mean, I was a massive radio comedy fan, so all the Goons, Round the Horn, Sorry I'll Read That Again, and then later getting into Monty Python. So there's always that silly side of things, and then very more like song-based, shorter songs, which again, you know, I was a massive fan of George Michael. I feel I learned a lot from him vocally. So you know, so many influences, and I especially nowadays, I try and listen to a wide range of music, because I mean, we're all open to the risk of stealing other people's songs.
Yes, there's that. Yeah.
And I think, well, I don't want to do that, you know, if I can help it, because sometimes you do it by accident. But the things when I have realised I've sort of been influenced by somebody to the point of borrowing, and then I think, wow, that's a really obscure influence that I've sort of borrowed from him. It might be like an old radio theme tune or something, and I think, oh, that sounds a bit like whatever. But I think, but no one's going to get that, or I don't think they are anyway. So, but you know, I love. I mean, when I was in my late teens, I was massively into jazz. We were playing jazz in a little combo at school, and that was really exciting. And then the 2000s broke, and we were all into garage randomly. Yeah. And then a bit later, we all started getting into metal, so System of a Down, Drowning Pool, which is a quite.
You ever a fan of Rush at all?
Well, again, no, not until. No. I mean, I think I would have known. I would have heard Tom Sawyer, I think, but again, the prog thing, apart from, like I say, Genesis and War of the Worlds, I just didn't. I mean, I didn't even know what the word prog. I didn't know that was what it was called. You know, I just got into Genesis and all of the facets of Genesis from about the age of 11 and 12, and I didn't know that was called prog. And I think it wasn't until probably 2004, 2005 that I started getting into Yes, and then by proxy probably a bit of Rush, and then exploring other things after that. So the majority of my prog listening came a lot later in life, and probably over the last 15 years or so.
I've been talking to a few bands just recently, and you know, saying about, do you think there's a prog rock revival on the way, because this like Solstice has suddenly sort of shot back up there, Trilogy reformed. They were basically saying, well, it's never been away really, it's just been sort of underlined there, bubbling away. I mean, do you feel that way? I mean, it's never really gone away, has it?
I wonder more about music in general, really, because I mean, this is going to sound very granddad-like, but with, you know, auto-tune or pitch correction, should I correctly say, becoming sort of the industry standard now, with literally everything just using it, and even some proggers out there are using it as well. I'm not going to name and shame them, but they are. And this sort of pop music we hear becoming more and more. I mean, we're heading into a phase of very, very short songs now. It's almost like we're at the TikTok of pop music. And now AI is coming in and writing music for us all to listen to. Yeah. So I kind of wonder about. I wonder if are we going to sort of keep going on that line for another 5 or 10 years until musicians are made redundant altogether. Which, I mean, that will never happen entirely, but some musicians will fall prey to it, I think.
Right.
So I can't see musicians being made completely redundant, but some will sort of fall prey to that. But I think I wonder if we're going to go that way, or if we're actually going to see a revival in general of more people wanting to, to see bands actually playing instruments and stuff. Because there's so many great performers out, like YouTube guitarists and drummers and stuff, who are getting, getting views, but they're not getting recording success and stuff like that. So, but with prog, I really don't know, because without putting too fine a point on it, the demographic doesn't seem to be getting any younger.
No, and we're all demanding chairs now as well, rather than standing gigs.
But I think if more, I've seen some younger prog bands, and that's cool, or bands that are happy to go under the prog banner, so to speak. And if younger bands get into it, then maybe the audience will keep, they'll keep their interest. And
yeah,
it'd be nice to see, wouldn't it, like a massive prog resurgence. But I think I can't see it personally, but I think the people who still want it are still very passionate about it, and that's amazing. So but who can say?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, AI, I was talking to a singer. Sorry, excuse me. I'll start that again.
Well, it's like a fisherman's friend, don't you?
I was talking to a singer. He had recently heard an album that had been made, I think it was Liam Gallagher, and so it had been artificially made using AI. And I said to him, yeah, I've heard Trick of the Tail where they replaced Phil Collins' voice with Peter Gabriel's voice. And that was bizarre.
And there's all that going on. I mean, there's a guy, I might as well give him a name check, he's called Fast Cakes, and he's making prog albums now, and he's made about 15 of them this year, using Udio software, where it sort of, you put prompts in and it'll write stuff for you, and there's all sorts of tools you can use. But he's making albums that sound like they've come straight out of the 70s, and it's scary, and I find AI equally fascinating and frightening at the same time. But,
it could be fantastic. It could be
some of it. It's a novelty. I think it'll wear off, but other things, will inevitably sort of take over, and because we're always looking for ways to save time doing things, so that will happen to a degree, I think.
The Ember Sessions. Do you prefer playing sort of intimate gigs like this, or you played with Camel at Royal Albert Hall, haven't you? Which would you say do you have a preference?
Well, I used to get a bit more bothered about intimate gigs from a nervous point. I don't get nervous in general, but if I did get nervous, it was more likely to be if there's a few people, because it's just, there's nowhere to hide, sort of thing, and I did arenas back in the telly days, which I don't talk about much, but we did arena tours, and it never fazed me a bit, going out to thousands of people and doing the Camel stuff has been amazing as well. But these days, I love doing that acoustic thing. That's how I started off with Tiger Moth Tales, because I didn't have a band, and I like to be able to do both now, and I've been looking forward to this. The good thing about playing acoustic stuff is that you're only, when you're playing on your own, you haven't got to, so it's a good and bad thing, I suppose, but you've only got yourself to rely on, and then again, if you mess up, then it's only you to blame, so I suppose it's a double-edged sword. But no, I love, there's a great thing they've got going on here at the Talbot, and I did one a couple of years ago, and that was really lovely, and looking forward to it tonight. And I think we've got about 60 in tonight, which, as I said to Bob a little while back, early this evening, it's not flipping bad, is it? Because we're hearing about cancellations, venues closing, and how hard it is. I don't know why some bands tour, because the sort of middle bands, or the smaller sort of level bands, you're touring now. It's just costs are astronomical. So tonight 60 people, and I think it's going to be fantastic, and I'm looking forward to it. And I do enjoy the smaller crowds, although 60's pretty big, so I suppose that's fine. And I enjoy smaller crowds and large, so it's all good.
Blackbird on Maui, who's fine?